Welcome to Indian Time again. I have Valda Shelby as my guest today, continuing issue of the Mascot. Today is month of February, or which means curly and cold. As I said before, that this time of the month used to be the coldest month of the year, and a lot of snow, which has changed over the years. They said that Chkoskan means that curly, and so things got so cold that they would curl up. And that's what the month of February is. Place names for this show will be Pasho Mokos, which means Bazoo, which we have for Bazoo Peak. Bazoo is named after Bazoo Finley. And some of the information that I have is John Peter Paul, who recently passed away, said that this area was very good for hunting. Deer was all over in that area. And Pasho was also known for, he said, for making moonshine back in those days, but he was never caught. So there's a lot of different activities in Bazoo, which we call Pasho Mokos. The other one would be in Tene. Tene means a place where there's alder. Alder is a tree or a bush that is used as a dye. If you take the bark from the alder and boil it, it'll turn a reddish color, and the people used to use that to dye their moccasins and other things like that. So it's a dye. These are the two place names for this show. That's Pasho Mokos and Chichinnet. With that, I would then continue on with saying that an issue here is very important to Salish Kootenai people that we're trying to resolve and trying to address in a way that would bring people together to understand the importance of changing the names of some of the mascot names of schools, not only in the schools but throughout the country. You look at the savages, maidens, warriors, chiefs, redskins, and I think savage is probably one of the more degrading mascot name that we have around here. As I said in the past show, for those of you that think that it's honoring Indian people, I thank you. If you really truly believe you're honoring Indian people by using these names. But I ask that if you really want to honor Indian people, then honor them with respect and understand the total feeling of people, and what these words, what these mascot names have really done for communities. It's just now surfacing now because some students have stepped forward on the issue, but it's always been there. It's never been a good thing for Indian people. And as an earlier show, we talked with Pat Pierre, who was at Hot Springs when that name was taken by the Hot Springs School. So this issue at that time has started to divide a lot of not only the students, but the communities, the parents, administrators, and even today. Today, when we travel around, I'm a parent of 4 children who have all gone through high school, who have all participated in sports, and I have a senior in high school today. And even today, we continue to be degraded by these words and be ridiculed for who we are as brown-skinned people, as Indian people who the Creator gave us and made us who we are today. And we need to understand that we are not created equal for a reason. We all have our own cultures, we all have our own languages, and we all need to understand and respect those issues, those things. And when you go to a sports game somewhere out of your community, and when your team is winning, when our team was winning and the other team didn't know what to do, so they resorted to name calling. They resorted to different things that hurt, trying to hurt the players that were on the team. And that's not who we are, what we're all about. And so for those of you that think the issue of racism, the issue of disrespect is gone, it's not. It's always there. It seems to surface whenever competition gets close and wild, and that should be a game. To me, the games is an education. It's supposed to teach people how to be better, but in many cases, it has brought hatred out. And I think changing the names of mascots throughout the country would truly give the Indians a belief that people are starting to understand and respect who they are. So I hope that as this issue goes on, more education, more understanding, things will change. As I said before, that we seem to be here, the Indian people have been here for thousands of years. And the respect and the things that they've done here has to be taken into consideration. A lot of the people that fight against Native Americans on reservations are usually people who are new to the area, have no understanding of the history of the people. In order to bring communities together, back together, in order to bring our students back together, we need to start understanding each other and respecting each other. With that, we'll continue, I think, now with my guests today, and I'll introduce Valda Shelby, who has been on the past couple of shows, and we continue this issue with that. And Valda has a couple of guests with her today. Valda?
Thank you, Lemland Atwan. You know, as a person, I've always had a concern about the mascot issue, and specifically the demeaning names such as savages, redskins, whatnot. But it really hit home once I became a parent, because it complicates the generational thing where, as a parent, we are expected to teach our children to take pride in their Indian identities. And we're supposed to pass on our traditions and teach our children how to continue living the cultural ways. And it's really hard to tell them that certain things are supposed to be respected, and at the same time, we allow them to be called chiefs or maidens, warriors, whatnot. And so the kids see that. They get confused, and they know that we also are buying into the hoopla, the name calling, and for whatever reason. And as Tony was saying, many of our kids are are playing with those teams. They're athletes, and we've allowed them to be called names, and yet by the same token we tell them that it's important to respect the chiefs, what the Warriors were, what they were all about, what their roles in our society was. So it's really confusing as a parent, and so I guess as an individual we turn to the school boards, to the bodies of authority in the systems, and ask that they respect us and respect our roles as parents and help us to educate our children, and rather than confuse the children, because a lot of young people are starting to ask us, why do you allow this? Why are they calling us savages? They take so much pride in themselves and their identity that they cannot accept it, and they expect the parents to be able to resolve these issues. But it's not always that simple, and it's difficult to explain, and unless you've been involved in institutional racism, you really don't understand that there's no one way to break it down. It has to start within through an education process. Fortunately, we've had students from the Salish Kootenai College and Two Eagle River School who joined our task force on Indian mascot and logo, and they became very active. They have their own ideas on how to address this issue, and they've been willing to go into public forums, go into school forums, and they spoke to the issue, and I thought they were quite eloquent. They conveyed their message quite strongly, but again, it has been with no response from the school authorities. So today we've asked them to come in and kind of describe what they've been involved with and how they feel about the situation in their own words. From Two Eagle today we have Susan Finley. She's been with us through certain meetings and different types of engagements, but most importantly, she came with us to the Hot Springs community, and she addressed the student body, and that takes an awful lot of courage, because we were very outnumbered up there, and our presence wasn't very welcome. We also have Inismin Auld with Two Eagle River School. She's been very active on this issue, and she also addressed the student body and has been involved in other types of activities to help educate and raise awareness on this issue. Twin.
Okay, with that, I'd like to go ahead and go to maybe Susan first, and tell us in your own words what kinds of things that you've done trying to, I guess, change the word and convince people of changing the mascots.
Well, the things I've done is I've been to like several meetings to like try to inform people about the name. Or it's not the name to me. It's the logos, like who they aim it toward, like what they're out there on the, like basketball, if they're out on the court representing the logo. It's like Hot Springs logo. They said, well, we changed it, and right now it's a dream catcher with a dart. It's like, well, a dream catcher is still Native American. You're still aiming it toward the Native American people. And it's just like, well, if you change your logo, you guys could be like proud to be savages or whatever. Just change your logo, because that's what they're representing on like their uniforms and stuff is the logo, and their name goes with the logo or whatever. And so the logo is like what it's aimed toward is Native Americans. And it's just like the name and the logo together is like degrading, or it's just like offensive, because like the name that are the non-Native American people gave us.
What kind of experiences have you had with, with the different schools and with different mascots?
Well, when we went up to that meeting at Hot Springs, I went up there and tried to give my point of view, but then people started arguing with me, and it's just like, so I started arguing back, and I was like telling them like how defensive it was. And then after I got done, then a whole bunch of their students like started going up there, and some of them were crying and saying, quit taking away our name. And some of them were just like arguing around and telling or trying to say like we're taking over or like Tuigo's our enemy or something.
What about you? Did you have any experience?
When we went to Hot Springs, there was a lot of hostility, not just from the students, but from the teachers. When we were there, the students seemed to argue with us. Like when we were giving our point of view, they wouldn't respect what we were saying. They wouldn't even listen to what we were saying. They just kept saying, well, this is what we want, this is how we want it, and you guys aren't going to change our mind about it. And this girl come up and she was crying, and she was Native American, and she said, why are you doing this to us? And then she went and sat down, and we were pretty much doing what? We're just giving our opinion. You know, we're not meaning to be hostile, but that was a pretty hostile experience. Like, can't think of the word. Experience. There we go. Up there, it wasn't like a welcoming, but yet it wasn't a medium. It was really hostile. There was no medium there. And after we talked to the kids, we were getting on back to our van, and like I could hear people coming out, and they were making very rude comments to us, and I just ignored it, and I got in the van, and I just went home after that. But in Ronan, we really didn't have a chance to voice our opinion because they wanted to do it in a smaller setting, so not everybody could just get up and talk because it's a bigger school. But I talked to kids on an individual basis at Ronan, and some of them were against it and some of them weren't. But altogether, I thought it, speaking to more on an individual basis is a little better than trying to approach it from like the entire group setting that we did.
Okay, what kind of things did you try to bring out in Hot Springs?
I tried to point out that the word savage, even though by dictionary meaning, it was meaning, I don't remember what it was meaning, but I tried to point out that it wasn't exactly, how would you say that?
A good thing.
A good thing for Native Americans, because at first it was pointed towards Native Americans, and then now like they had the emblem of the chief sitting there, but they said savages, and that was still derogatory towards us. I tried to point out to them that it wasn't right to do that to another human being, and they sort of argued back, and I was telling them, I'm here to educate you guys, not to just make you change it. It was to help educate them. One of the things they said was, well, we changed it to the dream catcher and the dart or the spear, whatever they have it as, but it's still still towards us. And I tried to explain to them, but they just kept arguing with us. And so I just left it at that because nobody really wanted to listen to my opinion.
What about you? What kind of things did you try to bring out?
Well, I was trying to bring out, like, what if it was, like, not Native Americans who they're aiming it for? It's like, well, what if they were aiming it toward, like, other races? I was telling them, like, what if we went out and changed the name to, like, different races to, like, bad names? Like, I forget. Or, yeah, like, what if it was, like, I don't know. Oh yeah, or like the Chinatown Chinks or something, or like change it to like a different race, and then or like keep changing it to different races and see how that one race would feel about it if we had names like that, or like what they would do in this kind of a situation. And I was trying to tell them, like, well, you know, we're not the only ones who like face this. There's like other races that are going out there and getting things changed to where it ain't aimed toward them. And it's like, well, when it comes to us, it seems like they don't listen. It's like they don't care. And like I'm staying with Inismin, I go on an individual basis and talk to people about it. Because at Ronan, I was talking with most of them people about it. And right now, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think if one school could change it, then maybe we'd get other schools to change it. It's just
To set an example.
yeah, to set an example. I was trying to set examples up there of like what types of names we could have on this res besides the Savages or the Scarlets or names like that. I was just changing the names to the towns and making them go with it, because some of the names I had were or cannot be said right now.
Do you feel like the students in some of these schools really understand what the word means?
I don't feel like they really understand what the word means. I feel like it's back then, you know, you got to forget about it. We got to keep our name. They named it back then, so we got to keep it now, or something like that. And I'm just like, well, it's now. We got to learn like to go through changes. Like we got to like change a society to where you can make everybody happy. But I mean, but it's not fair. It always seems like it's always aimed toward Native Americans. And it's like no one's listening to us.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Sometimes life can seem a bit overwhelming, especially when things are changing so fast. I've found that it really helps to stay connected during those times. That's why I reach out to family, friends, and people I look up to when I need some good advice or just someone to talk to. It's amazing how sharing can really raise your spirits. Take time to connect with someone in your life, and if you don't have someone, Big Brothers Big Sisters can help. Hello? I was just gonna call.
Welcome back. We just have a few minutes left here on Indian time, so I think, Velda, do you have any closing comments here?
Yes. I guess what the tribe's position and the task force position to the public schools on the reservation was that they have a real opportunity to enlighten students on actual tribal histories and cultures rather than depicting us as mascots or logos. And last year with the passage of House Bill 528, it enables schools to bring in tribal curriculums and accurate histories and information. And I guess I've just felt that it would be more appropriate than to honor us with mascots to educate our people on the accurate histories so our people would learn more about who their chiefs were and why they were so highly respected. I think that would be a truly honorable way of honoring the Indians on this reservation is telling our people who our warriors were and who, I guess, the maidens were, who the women leaders were on this reservation, or even prior to being put on the reservation, where our leaders had come from, and not depict us as these icons or these outmoded images. We no longer have these types of positions in our societies, yet you could teach the accurate histories, and it would be more meaningful and it would be more appropriate, especially if our people knew who our chiefs were and came to respect our cultures and traditions.
Thank you, Velda, and thank the rest of my guests for the past few shows on this issue, very touchy subject issue, I guess, that is something that I think we can't avoid, we can't turn our backs on. We need to approach it, we need to address it, and we need to settle it for the benefit of all. I think, again, as Velda mentioned, a lot of history, a lot of education on the history of the people here needs to take place from the administration, from the school boards to the students on down. As I mentioned earlier, the people of this area have been here for a very, very long period of time. the majority of the non-Indians have been here just in recent times, in the 1900s. So we need to take a look again at the history to learn how to understand before we make decisions, before we oppose each other on issues that is of great concern, to really understand what we're trying to do here, to really understand the history of our ancestors. Was it the intent of degrading, or was it the intent of honoring people? To have given schools such names as savages, warriors, chiefs, maidens, redskins, fighting Sioux, or whatever. There might have been a time that might have been a time where that was true, or the intent was true. But I think we've lost the true meaning and history behind the words and the tribes or the people that they represent. And it's an issue that we need to address and to do away with the hurt that has been carried by tribes for so many times. People think it's a new issue. It's not a new issue. It's just that now people are coming forward to address this issue, to try to correct it. And I thank everyone for being here and listening. I hope we are of some help in a little bit understanding this whole issue. Lem specia lupisin qsqadih may pisaya bi paskhas mtunek etluchtuwe. Lem chqas tschalt.